Yo, what's up guys? Here is 12 minutes of useless League of Legends information, episode 29. We're back, baby. Let's go. Have you ever wondered which pings are the most popular? Well, here you go. It turns out that the on my way ping and the enemy missing pings are hands down the most popular between all 5 roles. It's pretty neck and neck for all the roles but the jungler, which makes sense because they're always pinging on my way for ganks. The assist me ping is the 3rd most common for everyone and the caution ping is 4th. To me, what's interesting is how much people just don't use the new pings. Like, I feel like it was an interesting idea to bring into the game, but personally I just forget to use them half the time because of muscle memory, and apparently from this chart I'm not alone either. Yo, really quick, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Now I know most of you have heard of it, but now's the perfect time to actually try it out for yourself, and I'll tell you why. For one, I like how there's almost an endless amount of content because there's over 600 champions you can choose from, and 2, they're always adding in new features like this newest one Professor Death Knight will tell you about.
Professor Death Knight here with a lesson about Live Arena, the new PvP mode where you can fight against other players in real time. Live Arena has a draft feature where you can pick and ban champions to fight for you. Teamwork. When you win matches, you'll get Live Arena crests towards unlocking special area bonuses, or so I hear. All right, class. Any questions?
Yeah, I got a quick one. How do you feel about banning champs in Live Arena?
I hate it. I wish everybody could play.
All right, last question. Why do you sound like Ryan Reynolds?
Well...
Now, crazy enough, there's even more going on. In fact, Raid Call of the Arbiter is now in full swing. And to celebrate this epic limited series, Raid's adding in some new characters from the series as champions you can play in-game. First is Artak, a mighty warg warlord who will be available to everyone for free. Just log into Raid for 7 days between now and July 24th. So make sure to take advantage of all this exciting stuff coming to Raid by downloading it for free using my link or scanning my QR code here. And if you're new, you'll even get a free starter pack with this sick in-game loot. Thanks, Raid, and now back to the video. Did you know that if you graph out each of the equations on Heimerdinger's emote from the Legends of Runeterra, it actually spells out love? It's actually a pretty cool little Easter egg. Did you know that a lot of the new surrender vote changes are being implemented because a failed 4-to-1 surrender vote has a 97% loss rate, which was even confirmed by Freak.
A failed 4-to-1 surrender vote in ranked had like a 97% loss rate.
If you look really closely at the current corporate Mundo splash art, you can actually see a photo of his old corporate Mundo splash art on the dresser. All right, this is pretty cool. One of the previous animators at Riot, Rory Alderton, came up with these tower finishing animation concepts a few years ago, and these were some of the designs. And I know I've briefly gone over some of these in the past, but I haven't shown these yet. I think my favorite thing about these animations is 1, they just look amazing, but 2, they're also ridiculously creative. They're really tailored to each of the champions' personalities. I mean, the little plane that goes by on Nars is absolutely genius. It kind of brings that feeling of a fighter game into League with their finishing moves. With that being said, on one hand, I think it'd be really cool to have animations actually like this in the game, but on the other hand, I could see how this could get repetitive and also even disruptive. Like, that's a long time you're not able to defend yourself. Like, every champion could have its own custom finishing move if it's the last hit on the Nexus, because at that point the game's already over and it doesn't really matter how long your animation is. Just a thought. Also, I think my favorite one out of these has to be Cho'Gath's. I mean, the detail is just phenomenal. All right, ever since Nico's been reworked, she's been making highlight reel after highlight reel, but one of my favorite cheese plays I've seen so far is where they disguised Nico as a minion, went full crit, and just autoed them to death without them having any idea what they're dying from. It's honestly genius. I mean, look at this. Did you know that Nikola Jokic, you know, the now NBA champion and finals MVP, plays League of Legends? He even confirmed it himself in this interview, but also mentioned after that he grew up playing it with his friends.
Right now I'm playing on the computer, on PC I'm playing League of Legends.
Who's your gaming buddy?
I'm playing with my my friend that I grew up, and we are playing League of Legends.
In 2019, he even wore Solo Renekton only merch to a post-game interview. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Also, just imagine casually queuing up for a game and laning against one of the best basketball players in the world. Did you know in 2013, Riot Games actually launched a real Twitch channel dedicated to streaming Teemos dying in actual live games? The channel itself was called Teemo Dies, and every time a Teemo died in a live game, they'd have a death counter that would rise, and it would just keep going up on and on forever. Of course, eventually, Riot Games felt that the resources could be used better elsewhere, so they shut the whole thing down. However, the actual Teemo Dies Twitch channel still does exist, and you can even find it for yourself. There's just nothing on there anymore. Did you know that Morgana mains have the worst overall average rank out of any other champion at Bronze 1? In other words, if you know someone who's a Morgana main, make sure to send this to them to help them question their life decisions. On the flip side, if you're a Janna main, Cassante main, or a Rek'Sai main, your average rank is the best out of all the champions at Gold 2, so congrats, I think. Did you know that Braum was partially inspired by wrestling, which is why his armband on his left arm resembles old wrestling ones. Did you know that there is an 11.6% chance that someone in your game is going to be AFK in every single Iron game? That's kind of ridiculous. Additionally, set mains are now the most likely champion to AFK in a game at 1.1%. Did you know that Milio was actually inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender? It's also the same reason why Aang and Milio are both 12 years old. Additionally, Milio was partially inspired by Encanto and Pokemon, which is also why you can hear Freak make this reference in his champion spotlight.
Milio wants to be the very best.
Speaking of Milio, his Q animation was almost to yeet his blobs instead of kicking them. Also, his blobs are officially called Flamigos, and in addition to being bouncy, they allegedly like to be kicked around. I mentioned this in my best skin for every champion video, which you should go check out here if you haven't yet, but did you know that the new Aurelion Soul with the Storm Dragon skin has a 1% chance of dropping a Storm Dragon Lee Sin from the sky when he ults? Honestly, such a great Easter egg. Speaking of that best skin video, in that video, I said I'd put any skin you all thought was now the best skin against the winner in that video, and here were the results from 4 of them. First off, Pool Party Fiora held on as the best skin from Fairy Court Fiora with 64% of the votes. Next, Project E got smacked by the new Ink Shadow skin as Ink Shadow snagged 78% of the votes. Darkstar Karma remained as the best skin with 63% of the votes, even though some were very adamant that Fairy Court was now the best. And lastly, the new Ashen Guardian Shen stomped the defending title holder Shockblade Shen with 77% of the votes. So there you have it. 2 out of the new 4 skins voted managed to steal the title, so that's pretty impressive actually. This person, Sauron Kaiser, made an Iron Golem skin from Minecraft for Mordekaiser a while back, and it actually looks insane. I feel like a lot of these custom skins can sometimes be hit or miss with the quality, but man, you can just tell effort was put into this one. The craziest part about all of this though is that he did it in just 3 days. Hitting the tower animation is just perfect, but the all animation with the nether portal is just straight up genius. Like honestly, it might as well just be a legendary skin at this point. 10 out of 10. In case you haven't heard yet, the new champion Nefiri was just announced, and she's basically a darkened assassin dog. Interesting enough though, a lot of the inspiration for her model came from African wild dogs as mentioned here. Additionally, if you look closely, you'll also notice she has an earring which is meant to represent her formal life since all Darken have history. The earring is meant to be the last remaining thing of Nefari's former body, which I thought was a pretty cool little touch. Overall though, Riot's stated goal with Nefiri was to make a beginner-friendly assassin, so things should get pretty interesting. The most important part, however, has to be the fact that you can actually pet Nefiri, a small but great little detail. Puppy, sub, thank you. This isn't really information, but have you ever thought about how OP Gangplank's crew is in League of Legends? I mean, if you think about it, when Gangplank ults, he just tells them where to hit, and they always hit exactly on target. With that being said, it's actually thought that the person who fires Gangplank's cannon is someone named Riptide Rex, who's actually a shark, so I suppose most of the credit in that area goes to him. In other words, just remember whenever you're dying to Gangplank's ult, you're dying to a shark. Still, Gangplank's crew does deserve some praise because after all, they're probably the ones handing him the barrels he uses. It would explain why he has quotes like,
"More powder, another barrel."
Just a thought. Did you know that Blue Side wins 51.5% of ARAM games? It's kind of a lot for just a side. This guy created an insane wood sculpture of Yasuo, and it's actually kind of crazy how much detail was put into this. Nevertheless, it looks amazing. I can't imagine how long it would take to make something like this. I mean, the precision this takes is just insane. This is old, but probably one of the most cursed things you'll ever see. This person, for some reason, decided to mix Yumi and Aatrox together into one. If this isn't a sign to quit League, I don't know what is. This is a graph that shows what percentage of people use Flash on D or F according to their rank, and it's actually kind of interesting. For one, I didn't think rank would affect things this much, but lower elo players like to have Flash on D more, and the higher elo players tend to be more even. To be honest, I definitely thought more people would have it on F though, because you know, it's the right key to have it on. Either way, it's no surprise that win rate isn't affected by it, so I guess it doesn't matter. Speaking of Flash though, here's another graph which shows what people prefer by region. I think the most notable thing out of all this though is that over a third of Koreans have Flash on F, which is actually kind of crazy. I honestly wonder why it's so common there. Maybe it's because Faker has Flash on F. Who knows? Did you know that it's possible to play League of Legends on a Steam Deck? Now obviously I wouldn't recommend it, but from the videos I've seen, it actually isn't as terrible as you'd think, but it still doesn't look great. Surprisingly though, they were getting 60 FPS still, and the game seemed to be running smoothly, so that's actually pretty cool. Nevertheless, I could actually actually see this being really good for Wild Rift in the future, which is probably what will happen sooner or later. I know Riot's working on getting it out to consoles soon. At least that's what they say. Here's a clip I came across that was posted 10 years ago on an Anivia disconnecting, but somehow still managing to get a kill onto Gragas while she was AFK. A pretty impressive outplay if I do say so myself. If you're ever feeling down when playing ranked, just remember that when Faker was here for Worlds, he said NA solo queue was harder than Worlds itself.
I really wish LCS can become the best region in the world, and I've been playing a lot of NA solo queue when I'm around here, and it's harder than Worlds, so I think it's gonna happen next year for sure.
With that being said though, it was probably a little more difficult for him considering everyone was always trying to snipe him and kill him in every single game he plays. So it honestly makes sense. Either way, NA solo queue sucks. And if you still need more of a pick me up, you're probably not doing worse than this guy who just got his first win since June 7th. He was on a 17 game loss streak with 2 ARAM games in there, but 15 straight ranked games lost. Feels good, man. For whenever it returns, did you know that the chariot on Nexus Blitz actually scales with the first champion who gets in it? Meaning if someone like Cho'Gath were to get in, for instance, then the chariot would also become massive. Did you know right now Ezreal is picked in almost a quarter of every single game, and he doesn't even have a positive win rate? It's just kind of interesting though on how popular he is right now. Lux is the next closest, but it's still a decent chunk away. Did you know that Cassante almost had an ability where he would drop his Natofus during his ultimate, and then they would become a dash or terrain point that he'd be able to interact with? He also originally had more interactions with the terrain in general. Speaking of Cassante, from one of his recent posts, it didn't seem like Showmaker was too much of a fan of him.
이게 그 상태다. 체력 4700, 방어력 329, 마저 201인 챔피언이 그 다음에 공격력 개수가 있어가지고 W가
Did you know that in the lore, Blitz actually used to help Zeri climb the Piltover clock tower?
Blitz, you used to help me climb the clock tower. That arm of yours is no joke.
Did you know that almost all of the OG champions have officially been updated now? Jax is pretty much the only one that's still the same. All of the other models have substantially changed, and probably for the better. I mean, some of them looked kind of cool back in the day, like Alistar, but other champions like Soraka and Nunu, on the other hand, needed a lot of help. So that was good. Pretty cool to see how much they've all changed though. The other day I saw this ad where they featured Abadaga playing League in a car, where I assume they're trying to sell it as one of the features of the car, but I guess my question is why? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. I feel like this is a one-way ticket to car sickness. These are the sorts of environments I picture my teammates in when they're in their promos. Alright, I rarely post memes on here, but I came across this one the other day and I was dying. I mean, I feel like we've all been there at some point. A while back, this person made Heimerdinger for lunch, and it actually looks pretty good. The food, on the other hand, I might have to pass on. Here's a diagram showing the results of every single League of Legends Worlds tournament, and if I'm learning anything from it, it's that T1 should have just stuck with their old logo. Did you know that 7 years ago, KFC partnered with Tencent to make a League of Legends bucket meal? I gotta say, that's a pretty intense bucket meal they got going on in there. Did you know when you use the Ashen Grave Knight Mordekaiser skin, you actually hear different music playing depending on if you're Mord or the person he ulted? For example, this is what you hear when you're Mord. And this is what you hear when you're the victim. Alright, just kidding. This is what you actually hear. Did you know the item Cosmic Drive is actually Elun's diadem? And for those who don't know, Elun is Aphelios' twin sister. This is an updated graph showing the popularity in each role of every rank and region. As you can see, top is actually the most popular and support is the least. And lastly, did you know Surprise Party Fiddlesticks is actually Italian? He even has a quote where he says,
Wanna hear a joke? It's a riot.
You get it? It's because it's alright, never mind. Hey guys, just a quick update here. Sorry I've been MIA for so long. I was actually moving, working, traveling, and breaking my computer, so it's been a pretty crazy couple months. I did, however, actually get to go to Korea, so that was pretty cool. And I even accidentally ran into Faker when I was visiting the T1 headquarters, which was pretty crazy. I didn't have any useless info for you guys, though. Sorry about that. Anyways, I should be back on track to getting more vids out for you all, so thanks for being patient. Anyways, if you have any useless info, feel free to send it to outsidejokelol@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. A huge shout out to WeHat, Sugar Shambles, Orion, Gooseman, Set Right, Hegel, and another massive shout out to my tier 3 patrons, Stefan, Noctac, Chris, and James. You guys are incredible. All right, bye.